All right, don't want to mess that up. Okay. All right, thank you guys for attending the meeting today. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions if you have any. I wanted to start off today by just letting you know we've been getting a lot of direct emails and sometimes direct phone calls lately. Just wanted to encourage you to use the fiscal@laca.org email address when you're asking questions and tickets, just because one or both of us might be unavailable at the time, and just want to be sure that we're both included on these questions so that we can get your answers sent back to you as quickly as possible. Same with our team phone line that's there, to just be sure to use that when calling and asking questions as well. Okay, so next slide is probably the big one for today. It's regarding employee self-service. Wanted to thank you all for your patience as the software is kind of working through its original development. There are weekly improvements, and I know that a lot of you have a lot of requests out there for issues to be fixed or enhanced in the software. Please try to remain patient as those get worked out by the developers. I've learned through several of my meetings with state software that this is used in many, many different ways by many, many different districts, and there are a lot of different types of requests that they are receiving on a daily basis. So, they're trying the best they can to keep up and tackle some of the highest priority and most important issues first. So I do kind of push for some of the things you guys have requested whenever I attend meetings, and try to set, our perspective of priorities to the developers. So, I'm trying to push for your needs, but as I said, there's so many. It's just hard for them to kind of keep up at this point. But they're trying the best they can. I wanted to show you some links to our website that I've added. I've added some pieces of documentation. Recently, there was the new self-registration feature that was added. We received a couple pieces of feedback from districts saying that these instructions are pretty helpful, and their employees have been able to self-register without much of an issue. So here's the instructions for that. It's fairly easy. Can you get that just in case it's for us? So there aren't many steps involved in this. It's pretty easy to follow. I'm not going to go through this step by step because it's fairly simple. There are some differences I wanted to point out, though, from what the kiosk used to have in their self-registration feature. And that is, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. And that is that it's requesting the employee number whenever you self-register. That's basically so that ESS can link to USPS appropriately and pull the correct employee's information. I've put on the instructions here that this can typically be found on the employee's pay slip or provided by the payroll office. So hopefully that doesn't cause you too much of a headache. But that's probably the biggest change. Also, since the usernames and passwords are not associated with any other program, it's important that whenever they self-register to leave this "is externally authenticated" checkbox unchecked. And I've got that in bold red letters here on the instruction form. So as long as they follow these instructions, they shouldn't have too much of an issue self-registering into the system for your new employees. Okay. Also, I think we're kind of towards the end of this particular thing. I think all of you have done a pretty good job with being able to establish or reset users if they're having any types of issues. As far as I know, I haven't received too many questions in the last couple of weeks regarding this type of thing, but so you guys are doing pretty good with that. We do have the spreadsheet still available out here if you have any type of enhancement request or any issue that you're having that just doesn't seem to be getting resolved, and you're getting, questions asked to you over and over again. I look at this on a daily basis to see if there's anything added, see if there's any help or assistance I can address here in the resolution or column. So, feel free to continue to add, any requests here as needed. This is also what I use in my meetings with the programmers to indicate, what types of issues we want to see added to the software. So, this is just wanted to kind of remind you that that's still out there. We've had some questions lately about reverting leave requests, and I wanted to address that. So I've added another, well, I'll just show you. I've added another helpful resource document on our website here that talks about the proper method of reverting leave requests in this software. So the important thing to know about reverting leave requests is that basically when you export leave requests to USPS, you're adding the absences. Reverting the leave requests in ESS basically is a way of changing the status of a leave request from exported back to approved. There could be a variety of reasons why you would want to do this, whether you exported the wrong date range or you accidentally exported a leave request that you just didn't, maybe somebody changed their mind at the last second or something, and you've already exported it and you want to revert it back to an approved status so that it can be canceled or deleted. But there's reasons why you would need to do this. Reverting the leave requests doesn't take back the absences that were put in USPS. So there is a step that's included in this process that's going to have you go back into USPS and delete the absences that were created. So I wanted to point that out because it seems like there may have been some indication that reverting the leave requests in ESS also removes the absences in USPS. That's just not the case. Okay. So, in the instructions here, I do have a step in here to log into USPS and remove any previously created absences that you've reverted in ESS. So just wanted to be sure that's the case. If you're reverting a lot of different absences and then re-exporting them at a later time, if those absences were partial days, you might see duplicated partial leaves in USPS. And that's because USPS has a rule that will not allow an absence greater than 1 day. But if you have partial day leave requests out there that add up to a day or less, even less than a day, if you have 2 quarters or something like that, if you've exported that leave request twice um, out of ESS, then it definitely could create two identical absences in USPS, as long as it doesn't add up to a full day. So that's something you want to be cautious about as well. You want to be sure that when you revert leave requests, that you'd go back into USPS and delete those absences so that you can export them again at a later time. Okay, enough about that. Unless anybody has any questions on reverting leave requests. Okay, there is a new feature I don't have a document for that I wanted to kind of show you guys about. I put it in the release notes, but it's something that would have been easy to miss if you weren't really looking for it. So I'll just kind of show you what I'm talking about. Whoops. And it's regarding leave request analysis, which was a feature in the kiosk. And what this does is it gives like district managers or supervisors an opportunity to see the status of employees, like leave balances and leave requests in process, all on one screen. So any leave managers or district managers out there, under leave management, you've got a district leave analysis option. And what this does is basically give you a list of all of the employees in the district. So this is more of like a district-wide thing. And I'll show you in a second what supervisors have available to them, or where they can go to see that. But what this basically does is just gives you a breakdown of each employee's leave status. And this was definitely something that was available in the kiosk. There's been a couple requests, and they were able to add this feature in. It's pretty neat as far as giving you all the information. If you wanted to see specific leave requests for an employee, you can just check the box beside that, and then hit this button at the top that says see leave for selected, and it'll actually give you every leave request they've submitted in the system, so that you can see a breakdown of detail. If you wanted, so either one of these grids can be printed by clicking this export grid items option. So I wanted to let you guys know that this feature is now available. As far as supervisors, they will actually, under the leave request menu, see supervised leave analysis, which will give them the same style grid for any employees who they show as a supervisor for. Now, it doesn't mean that if they're approving someone's leave, this means that they are the supervisor for that employee as stated in USPS. So, but I wanted you to know that that was there. This was also a request for supervisors by one of our districts and added. So hopefully that's working okay for everyone if you're using it. All right, and then the last thing I want to talk about regarding employee self-service is the timesheets feature, which currently none of our districts are using. I know very, very little about this right now. I don't, I haven't started, there's just been too much going on. I haven't really spent much time learning about the timesheet feature. I do know that they are putting a lot of time in developing this, so that districts don't have to hop around to many different pieces of software. They also know that there's a lot of districts out there that don't have a timesheet software, so they wanted to put some effort into this to make it more useful than what the kiosk timesheet feature had. What I'm thinking is that I want to give myself some time to learn about this, and maybe in the spring, maybe at a payroll roundtable or maybe a separate meeting, we could do a demo for anybody that's interested in learning about the ESS timesheets feature. So I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on that availability. Okay, so if you have any employee self-service related questions, if you have something you feel needs to be asked in a ticket, feel free to continue asking those. Does anybody have any questions they want to bring up today? I will continue to speak on your behalf as far as with the developers to try to get some of these enhancements that you've asked added to the software. I also will continue to add documentation as I see fit. If I'm seeing a specific question asked over and over by you guys, I'll try to create some sort of document so that you have a bigger library of places to go to get your documentation. So, all right. There have been, okay, so I want to apologize. We've gone, quite a few months without having any type of USAS or USPS update. There have been quite a few USPS enhancements that might be impacting you. And these I think are all good things. Some of you may have noticed as you are generating your SERS per pay submission that you're now getting two files. And one is the regular file and the other is the adjustment file. I didn't use it, but I was told that this was something that actually happened in the classic software. So they've re-added this back to the new redesigned software. It also keeps you from having to generate that second file because a lot of times that was being forgotten if there was an adjustment file necessary. So those are just now generated automatically. So that's something to look out for. Feature that they've also added, maybe I'll log into the software just to kind of show you what this looks like.
It creates one too, even if there is no adjustment. Yeah, because I'm like,
Correct.
what is this even adjustment? It just is hard.
Oh no, come on. Okay. All right, the other item another item that was added is under the attendance grids. You now have a new button at the top, a delete button. So if you needed to, say for instance, you reverted leaves from ESS and you wanted to delete many of them at the same time, as instead of clicking one at a time, you can either filter on a date range, you can filter by absences, you can shrink your grid down to what you want to delete, select all and delete, or you can pick and choose several leaves at a time. And let's see. There we go. Once you check the box beside those, the delete button should become active, and you can delete several records at one time. So there's now a mass delete option under attendance. So that was a recent addition. And then the final addition that I wanted to talk to you about, and this is more for any treasurers that might be out there. I get a lot of questions regarding pay account histories. There was a new canned report that was added in the reports menu called the account history report. There are a lot of options here. So I just wanted to kind of briefly talk to you about them. You do have a time frame you can search pay accounts for. If you wanted to filter by pay group, you can do that, or certain employees. But the key is if you're looking for specific accounts that were used, you can come down here and use this plus sign to filter on certain accounts and put different filters in to generate a report. So this report, I ran it a few different ways. I'm not going to waste your time showing you that right now, but it's fairly quick and it's a lot faster than anything that was generated out of the report manager. So just wanted to kind of give you a heads up that this was available and out here for you to use if you wanted to run any pay account history reports. All right. Okay, so I want to get back to having those meetings again so that we can keep you more up to date on any changes to the software. So we're going to have another meeting on November 21st on Zoom to go over any changes to USAS, USPS, and inventory, and maybe ESS too on November 21st. The next payroll roundtable and fiscal advisory meetings will be on December 5th. I hope that this morning and afternoon thing works out okay for everyone. No one's actually said anything about it yet, but I kind of see that as how things are going to go going forward. Just have the meetings on the same day. But yeah, we'll go over the calendar year-end processes on December 5th. And then I've got dates down here for 2025 if you want to put those in your calendars as well. All right. Tiffany's got some staff email stuff she's going to share with everyone. So Tiffany, it's all yours.
All right. All right, so there are currently 2 collections that are open. We have our 5-year forecast and then the staff and course collection. And I know some of you have already started working on that, and a few of you have even submitted your collection. We have our EMIS documentation. This is our checklist. Yeah, the initial reporting, the fiscal 25 staff EMIS initial reporting documentation. It's going to give you a pretty detailed overview of what you need to do and where to go to complete things. There's the scenarios here. I think most of you are familiar with this document. You keep scrolling. This is where the procedure is actually going to start, and it's pretty detailed. I'm not going to go through all of it because it would take forever, and you guys are pretty familiar with this. So that is out there. And it breaks down basically everything you need to do and where you need to go, how you can set up your reports and your grids to pull the proper information. So if you have any issues with that, you can let us know. Okay, so this is just going to be all your resources here. We got the manual, Again, the link to our documentation. If you have an issue that you need us to escalate, we can open an ODEW help desk ticket. There's the link to the data collector, and for those of you who use cross check, and then this is the link that's going to take you to our website where this information is as well. Now these next few slides, this is just basically like a reference. It's going to tell you who needs to be reported to EMIS, individuals employed for any portion of the school year, individuals contracted by the school district, individuals who are on leaves of absence, substitutes who are teachers of records on one or more courses, those who were employed during the previous year and who are no longer employed, and that you have not updated as separated, and individuals employed through supplemental contracts. This next slide is just a reminder who you don't need to report: substitutes, students, Board of Education, adult education, game officials, part-time help, and volunteers do not need reported. And then this is just if you like working with a checklist. This basically coincides with the list on our website, but you could check off what you need to do, just basically the steps and everything that entails. And then if you needed more detail, you can reference the checklist on the website. But this is just something quick if you want to just make sure that you've done everything and you're moving down the list. Also a reminder that absence days are not going to be reported in this initial collection. That's only on the final collection. And then if you wanted more information, I put the link there to the EMIS manual. And then these next slides, this is just going to be what you need in the system. If you don't know where to go in USPS, this tells you and also outlines, what you need to be looking at, like what needs to be on the employee record. So if you don't know where to look, this outlines everything that EMIS takes into account. And here are some reminders for the position record. If a staff member with more than one position or a supplemental contract is different than the regular position, you need a separate staff employment record for each position. Multiple coaching or advising assignments, a separate staff employment record would be needed for each position. You're going to report your supplemental positions, including those that only have a supplemental position. And then certain position codes, like your 230 teachers, they're going to need an assignment area. And then here is the EMIS manual, and that's going to give a more detailed breakdown if you don't know something, or if you need help looking something up, we can certainly do that too. And again, this is just reiterating that staff members should be reported with one position record, and then what to do when an employee leaves during the school year. The separation date and reason need updated, but the position status would remain a C. And these are all of the fields that you would want to pay attention to for reporting. Okay, this just goes through what your position status element means. I think most are familiar with this, but if you need a reference, that is here. I think most are a C, or if you have to update somebody that has left, or is on leave of absence, this is a reference for you. So you don't have to dig through the manual. Okay, this is just talking about the funding source elements. It's got to equal 100. This is where you would find it on the position record, and you can see the percentages here. If the other one, the funding, if there was a second funding source, obviously it would be 10% to make the 100, or percent one would just be 100. But this is the breakdown for that. This is just an explanation on the FTE. That's just going to be the amount of time it takes to perform the assignment full time. If you need to break this down, that's where the EMIS override field would come in. And then here is a calculation on how that is figured. In the EMIS manual, the CK record EMIS manual, I believe it's page 18. It further goes into explanation about what FTE is, but it should be one for a full-time assignment. All right, so then your compensation record, this is where you mark reportable to EMIS, and then everything that you're going to want to pay attention to. It tells you what EMIS is basing their calculations on, if you don't know. And then these are the reports that are in the report manager. There are step-by-step instructions on the checklist. Tells you exactly how to run it. But this could be used as a checklist if you want. And then again, a link to our documentation if you need it.
Just a reminder, if you run the canned EMIS reports and they have errors on them, those errors are likely not going to make any sense to you, and you're going to have to likely call us to figure out what those errors are for. So sometimes we get calls from you guys on that one. So that's pretty normal if you have to call us to figure out what those errors represent, but it's usually something that has to do with some data that's not correct. So
Yeah. All right, so contract only staff, these are the instructional positions. So this would be food service, custodial, transportation. You would report one record per contractor, contract, position code, and fund source. And that would be a separate extract. If you need help figuring out how to run that, you can let us know. It's fairly simple, but if you do utilize that, it's not going to come out in the normal extract. Okay, and then this is your normal SIF option data pool that's gonna do that automatically. And then this is again talking about your contractor records, where you would do that separately and save it and then have to upload that separately. Missing staff. A lot of times the credential or ZID might need updated. If that's the case, we do have a spreadsheet here. And if you need an update, if you just put the old staff ID, we don't need the name, and then the new staff ID and send it to us in a ticket, we can forward that on to be updated. And that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, feel free. Does anybody have any questions now? Okay.
Awesome. We're not going to have any EMIS questions this year. I think that's
Yes.
great.
Yes.
All right. So moving on from EMIS. Okay, so looking forward to the calendar year end. You can verify any new employee social security numbers through the SSA website. The process in USPS still hasn't changed, although I did see an update that's coming either in this week's update list or next week's update that's going to have possibly a report that we can use on the SSA website that you can upload. Don't like get mad at me if that doesn't happen, but it's a possibility that it's being, I think, tested and considered for an upgrade in the next week or two. So fingers crossed that works. So I'll definitely keep you posted if that happens. Put that in the release notes in bold red print because I know several of you have asked about that in the past. Okay, so another thing you can do now to kind of prepare is start balancing your W-2 report. Definitely get that balanced each month between now and the end of the year. I would also encourage you to log into your SSA account just to make sure you can get in there. And you're not waiting until you have to submit your W-2s to find out you can't get in and have to scramble at the last minute. So if you can, try to dig out those passwords for SSA and get logged in just to make sure you can do it. I've been receiving an email lately regarding the Ohio Business Gateway. It looks like they are going to be setting up and making it mandatory to have a two-step verification process to log into that. I think that's starting in December. There's a link here to the Ohio Business Gateway website that has some further information on that in case you haven't been informed about that yet. And then finally, I did want to mention that we will be printing the W-2s again this year. So you don't have to worry about doing that. We'll have instructions on the calendar year-end checklist about how to make those W-2s available so that I can get those printed. I'm not sure if I should be telling you this or not, but I'm going to anyways. LACA will be moving from this current location to a different location at the end of the year. So I've talked it over with our director to make sure I will have a printer available to me come the first of the year. And she's guaranteed that that will happen one way or another. So I will be printing those W-2s as early as I can. Okay, so I've been getting a couple calls the last few weeks about since school started that there's some mid-year contract related questions. I just wanted to remind you that we do have a I'm sorry, I wanted to remind you that the manual does have a pretty thorough section on mid-year contract changes. There's even a checklist in the user manual that they have posted out there. And then I've also posted instructions on our website that I think most of you have used in the past. We've had so many questions and things over the years. I feel like I'm pretty up to date on these processes. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask, and I'll do the best I can to help you out with those. Some information on those, just as a reminder. Mid-year contract changes have to be done under the processing menu under new contracts. And when you hit that copy button, that's when you'll have to choose your employee, the compensation that you're copying from, and then the type of mid-year contract change that you're making. The compensation start date needs to be the immediate date after the last payroll period ending for that employee. So I know that's kind of maybe a complicated issue for you, but whatever the previous payroll ended at, the compensation start date for the mid-year contract change is going to be the very next day. If there is a retro involved, you'll have to put in a raise date, and that's the date that the new pay should have started. It's a little easier of a topic to comprehend. And then the new contract amount is going to represent the new amount as if it was paid at the new rate for the full year. So if you have a teacher that works 183 days and they're increasing their pay to a new rate, it's whatever that new rate is times 183 is the new contract amount. Once you put in the compensation start date, the raise date, the new contract amount, you should be able to click calculate, and everything should be calculated appropriately. And I will say that 9 times out of 10 this works as expected, no problems. But once you hit that 1 out of 10 times that it's not what you expect and you want somebody to talk it over with, feel free to call me and we'll figure it out. Okay, if you need to change a contract in the middle of a pay period, you can't really do that. All right. So what happens is you're going to need to pay that person for a complete pay period, and then you're going to have to create a mid-year contract change for the next pay with a retro starting in the whatever the middle of that week is as your raise date. So mid pay period changes will not work. Also, you want to be sure if you're using a new contract or new contract change on a payroll, you want to make sure that that contract change is activated before you initialize the payroll. All right. The reason for that is to make sure that the compensation is updated appropriately once the payroll is initialized. Okay. If you have a lot of changes to make, I can talk to you about how to import them so that you don't have to create them one at a time. I've done that a time or two, so I can help you out with that. If you have multiple mid-year contract changes for the same employee, for the same contract or position, I guess I should say, that should not work. I think maybe Courtney can verify. We've tried that on a couple employees and it seems to be working okay. So that should be working. If you calculate a negative retro on an employee, that is not working. I don't believe they've fixed that quite yet. So you would need to manually add that negative retro to future pay to have that brought in, if that's a situation that you're encountering. And then a reminder that when you activate the mid-year contract change, the prior compensation will have a stop date added to it, and it will get archived during the activation process. So you won't have to do anything with the old compensation. It just kind of gets stored in the background. Okay. Oh. Did anybody have any questions on mid-year contract changes? Wait, we have a chat. Courtney, yes, that does work. So good. Thank you. Thanks for verifying. I thought that was you. All right, any questions? Remember, use that fiscal@laca.org email when creating tickets. We really, really appreciate that. Just to let you know that we get evaluated, and I don't know, it's important to us to notate everything in a ticket format, and our ticketing system automatically creates a ticket when you use that email. So it just is more efficient to do it that way, as opposed to you emailing us directly and then we have to manually create a ticket. Just it's an annoying amount of time. So you know, it's just as helpful to you guys to use that email as it is to us. So it's just a lot more efficient, helps us out that way. So Tiffany, anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
That's it.
All right, if there's nothing else, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. And some of you I might talk to you this afternoon at the treasurers meeting. So we'll see you then.